Hi, this is a question from gmatquestions.org. Let's read the question. If x is not equal to 0 and x squared y squared minus 2xy equal to 15, which of the following could be y in terms of x? If you look at the question carefully, you'll notice that this is just a quadratic equation. Okay, but the quadratic equation here is not in terms of x only or y only. It's in terms of the product xy. Okay, so let's be more specific here. If you have x squared, for example, minus 2x equal 15, that would be much simpler. All you have to do in that case is to write x squared minus 2x minus 15 equal to 0. And most of you know how to deal with this. This is just what I would call a quadratic factorization. It's one type of factorization. Okay, and usually you're taught to do something like this, depending which country you're from, I suppose. You're going to put x here, and find out which two numbers, when you multiply them, going to give you negative 15, and when you add them, going to give you negative 2. The bigger number going to have the negative sign because you have a negative here. First, we need to know that the two numbers involved gonna have opposite signs. Why? Because we have negative 15, the product being negative 15, so two numbers don't have the same sign. So for example, two numbers that comes to mind are 5 and 3. 5 times 3 is equal to 15. We could have chosen 15 and 1, but the problem is 15 and 1, the difference between the two will not give you a 2. You need to find two numbers, when you multiply them give you 15, but they are separated by 2. You know, the gap between the two numbers is around 2. Okay, it's actually 2. So here the numbers that has the negative sign gonna be 5, negative 5 here, and plus 3. Now, this is not the only way to do this type of factorization. Some of you gonna be maybe lost. I have no idea, but some of you gonna understand what I just did. You have different ways depending which part of the world you're from to solve this question, to solve this this equation. Okay, and just do it as fast as you can. But the way I did it here was pretty pretty good. Okay, so we had this, as we know, we solve it this way, and we can find that x equal 5 or x equal negative 3. Now, this is a little bit more complicated, but all we have to do is to write x squared y squared minus 2xy minus 15 equals 0. Okay? Now, I'm going to transform this a little bit further. I'm going to put xy squared minus 2xy minus 15 is equal to 0. And now we have the same type of equation we have on the right here. It's a quadratic factorization on xy, on the product xy. Not on x, not on y, but rather on the product xy. So it's easy now to solve. All we have to do is xy equals 0. So this is going to give us the same thing, minus 5 plus 3. So AB equals 0. It means A equals 0 or B equals 0. So we're going to have xy minus 5 equals 0, or xy plus 3 equals 0. Okay? So xy equal 5 or xy equal negative 3. We are asked to find y in terms of x, and x is not equal to 0, obviously, because the product is not 0. You know, y is not equal to 0 either. So y is going to be equal to easily 5 over x, or y equal to negative 3 over x. Okay, so as you can see, we have number 1 right here, and we have number 3 right here. We don't have number 2. So we have 1 and 3. 1 and 3, it's E. 1 and 3. Okay, so let's write that down. E is correct answer. Okay. Having said that, this is not the only way to solve this question. Again, as you know, sometimes I pick numbers, and we could have solved this question by picking a value for x, or for y, by the way, for y or x. I think that would be good to pick a number for x actually instead of y, because we are being asked here y in terms of x. So we pick a value for x, find the y, the corresponding y, and the same value, the same x we chose, suppose it was 2 or whatever, we're gonna put here a 2 whatever here in the answer choices, and see which one down when we pick x here in the original equation. Okay, you know how to pick numbers. I don't have to teach you that, but I just want to point out that you could have simplified this a little bit by picking x and just dealing with a y, but again, if you know what we did here, it's not necessary to do that. You can just solve the question, but you must realize that this equation, this quadratic equation, because we have 2's here, the power of 2, which is a quadratic equation, can be solved by treating it as a quadratic equation of xy, of the product xy, not of x, not of y, but of the product xy. Okay, I hope that you understood what I did, and you can do it again yourself. Okay, if you're faced with this type of question. Thank you for watching. This is a GMAT question from gmatquestions.org.